Bartok and Horizon then turned on each other in a now legendary final showdown that leveled the entire city of Vizjun, leaving hundreds of thousands dead, including Bartok.
Tales abound that the mad wizard Horizon somehow trapped the lieutenants of these two lords of hell within his sanctum. There can be no more dangerous a path to tread than the one that falls alongside of demons. Should you also seek this path, watch your life and your soul very carefully, my friend.
Aftermath. The grieving Horizon was aware that as long as the agents of the Burning Hells had access to Sanctuary, the corruptions of hearts and civilizations would never cease. Following the battle, he crafted himself an arcane sanctuary, a place where the agents of hell could never find him, and continued to dominate demons at will.
It seems that I may have brought something to this plane that even I cannot control. The creature that fell into my astral trap is a very deadly demon. I have been able to bind it at the bottom of a pit, but it kills everything that I have sent there in attempts to defeat it. While it cannot escape, it does block the tunnels that lead to my protected haven. I am tempted to use the switch to open the tunnels to see if it will just leave, but I fear it is smarter than most of the lesser demons I have trapped before. If I could just lure it somewhere else.
Now, although Horizon's fate remains unclear, 3,000 plus years in the future, in the cut quest for Diablo 1, during the Darkening of Tristram, the player can actually enter Horizon's arcane sanctuary and kill him with his demons unleashed. But that is not actually canon to the story. However, the arcane sanctuary will come back around, so it is an important tidbit. For the part of the wars, the Viserai resolved to forevermore spurn demonic magic finally, and instead they focused their remaining energies on studying elemental magic, going a step further to ensure that a tragedy of this magnitude would never be repeated. The Viz Jarktar were formed, an order of mage slayers known in Diablo 2 as the Order of Assassins.
The sanctity of this place has been fouled.
Darkening of Tristram. Fast forward to the events of Diablo 1, known colloquially as the Darkening of Tristram. It was there Jazrith the Sorcerer, among other Viserai, was sent to investigate the demons taking over the countryside, perhaps as atonement for their sins, but according to the Book of Cain, Jazrith personally also had an interest in discovering lost tomes and magical artifacts that might be hidden away in the labyrinth beneath the cathedral. Now eventually Jazrith, with the aid of his new companions, the warrior and rogue, reached the source of the horror in the labyrinth's darkest depths. Diablo, the Lord of Terror. And after a mighty battle, the demon was felled. Although they were victorious, unfortunately, like his companions, Jazrith's moment of triumph was not long-lived.
The Soul Stone burns with hellfire as an eerie red glow blurs your vision. Fresh blood flows into your eyes, and you begin to hear the tormented whispers of the damned. You have done what you knew must be done. The essence of Diablo is contained. For now. You pray that you have become strong enough to contain the demon and keep him at bay. Although you have been fortified by your quest, you can still feel him, clawing his way up from the dark recesses of your soul. Fighting to retain control, your thoughts turn toward the ancient mystic lands of the Far East. Perhaps there, beyond the desolate wastes of Aranok, you will find an answer. Or perhaps, salvation.
The tragic fate of the trio of heroes who faced and felled Diablo beneath the cathedral is further explored in the sequel, Diablo 2. Unfortunately, it seems that killing the Lord of Terror was just the beginning of their woes, being marked personally by Diablo's corruptive grasp. Confronting the Lord of Terror meant that they were already doomed, winning the battle against Diablo, yet ultimately losing the war. Most prominent, of course, is the story of the warrior, who later became the Dark Wanderer. A reward for his efforts in containing Diablo within himself, he would later then become the embodiment of the Lord of Terror, and is directly responsible for the ills that the heroes encounter during the events of Diablo 2. Also in Diablo's aid to free his brothers outside the greater and lesser evils, he called upon many familiar faces again, most notably the poor inhabitants of the town of Tristram, not granted any type of peace for their woes or even the sweet release of death. We see the town in shambles, and Griswold, the former blacksmith, cursed by Andariel herself personally to guard the town of intruders. The warrior, strong and proud in his attempts to save the people of Tristram, became what he had sheltered them from, the Lord of Terror, and in his wake, they were slaughtered nonetheless. The rogue, becoming Bloodraven, returning to her homeland in search of powers to protect her clan of rogues, but instead was manipulated by Andariel to become her personal patron. It's there we find her in a graveyard, raising and corrupting her own brethren to serve the lesser evil, and then slaughtering her sisters of the Sightless Eye, lost completely to the evils that claimed her.
Rest in peace, sister.
It is said, when facing the Lord of Terror, he would force his victims to relive their greatest nightmares. But it seems after his defeat in Diablo 1, he then forced the heroes to live them as they became his minions, a reward for their actions. But as the Lord of Destruction Vale will tell you, no good deed goes unrewarded. But what did the corruption of Diablo impart for the sorcerer Jazreth? And what were his greatest fears that he, in turn, was forced to live?
You have done well, Marius. Now I think you shall have your reward.
Nearly 1,000 years ago, Horizon rose to the fore of the Vigerai mage clan. Horizon used the knowledge of the Vigerai to summon and control demons from hell. Though a powerful summoner, Horizon feared that the lords of hell would punish him for enslaving their brethren. Thus, the summoner created for himself an arcane sanctuary. He believed that his sanctuary would not only protect him from hell's vengeance, but also allow him to continue his studies free from the ravages of time and disease. The arcane sanctuary was believed to have been constructed here, in Lut-Gholein. An entrance may be hidden somewhere in the palace, as that building is very old, and was once a Vigerai fortress.
When in search of Talrash's tomb, the heroes of Diablo 2 are tasked with finding an artifact that reveals its location, hidden away in the very arcane sanctuary that Horizon had inhabited. Although we were not the only individuals looking for the Mad Summoner's location. For whatever reason, perhaps to learn how to contain demons and the corruption of Diablo, aiding the warrior, now the Dark Wanderer, before he is turned into the Lord of Terror. Or perhaps the corruption of Diablo himself has taken hold. But it was Jazreth, the sorcerer, who sought out the arcane sanctuary prior to our arrival at Lut-Gholein.
There was an Eastern mage, a Vigerai, I believe, who visited me almost a year ago. He was very interested in the history of this site, and he seemed particularly fascinated with the palace architecture. I gave him a tour. When he found the ancient seals over a passageway in the cellar, he became very agitated. He asked for some time alone to study them, and I granted it. Shortly after, he left with no further word, and I never saw him again. Odd, don't you think?
Unbeknownst to the Desert Jewels ruler, allowing the portal to Horizon's sanctum to be opened had dire consequences for its inhabitants.
When the troubles began here, I allowed the terrified harem guilds to join me within the safety of the palace. All was fine until one night. Screams echoed up the stairwells from the harem. My guards arrived to find the poor girls being slaughtered by a merciless band of hell-spawned demons. My brave guardsmen tried to push the demons back into the mysterious rift from which they came, Ever since, my men have fought a losing battle. Demons have continued to pour through the rift into the palace. Ultimately, I hired Graze and his mercenaries to help protect the rest of my fair city. Drognin believes that the arcane sanctuary lies buried underneath this palace, since Lutgalain occupies the site of an ancient Vigerai fortress. My palace is open to you now. Take care.
Drognin confirms our fears that the sorcerer was indeed the same Jazrith of Diablo 1 fame, and has been corrupted, perhaps a victim of Horizon himself.
Yes, the man you speak of sounds like the mage who came here many months ago. He claimed to have fought Diablo in the passages beneath Tristram. No doubt the fool wandered into Horizon's sanctuary and lost whatever was left of his ravaged mind. He is beyond salvation. It is possible that the fool has been possessed by the spirit of Horizon. If that's true, then you'd better put an end to his tortured existence. Once done, I believe the demons who were summoned and imprisoned within the sanctuary will cease to exist as well.
This surely is the product of a twisted mind.
What makes this all the more interesting and perhaps somber is not just the fact we're tasked with killing another hero of the first Diablo, but also, if the cut content were to stand, and it was Jazrith and his party who originally cut down Horizon in his sanctum, and later he had inadvertently found a new passage into the Arcane Sanctuary, mind-addled thanks to his encounter with Diablo, and was then possessed by the mad summoner Horizon as retribution. However, the Arcane Sanctuary and meeting Horizon in Diablo 1 doesn't match up with these events, as it was cut from canon, but the story is nonetheless a bitter reminder of the effects of facing the Lord of Terror.
Ah, the ancient mage Horizon. He believed that he could bend evil forces to his will. What he didn't know was that evil uses man, not the reverse. The Vigerai still revere him as a symbol of man's ability to triumph over otherworldly forces. The Church of Light, however, cites him as an example of man's folly.
Also of note is that if Horizon was a spirit, he may have sought out a host and wiped out the town if he was not quickly vanquished.
Oh, yes, I remember. There was a fellow around here many months ago who asked almost as many questions about Horizon as you. So, he discovered enough to assume Horizon's place in the Arcane Sanctuary, huh? What a fool. Horizon found it necessary to lock himself up for all time, just to protect himself from those angry demons. Such is the fate of one who practices the summoning art. That or eternal damnation. There's old summoners and bold summoners, but no old, bold summoners.
At the Warped Sanctuary, we find Jazrith guarding the path to Talrash's tomb, now unrecognizable, sporting gaudy attire of a self-appointed despot. It's quickly evident that he's a mere puppet of the summoner Horizon, sporting the same tortured laugh as the late mage. To kill the now mad summoner is a matter of avoiding his minions and spells such as Glacial Spike and Frost Nova, and doing as much damage as possible quickly, as perhaps a nod to his class, meta, as he is a glass cannon. Felling the summoner is bittersweet, as not even the heroes of Diablo 2 recognize his great deeds in life. As some say,
Oh, I hate staining my hands with the blood of foul sorcerers.
Good riddance, freak.
This bumbling fool cannot be the mighty Horizon.
He was not Horizon. He was a deluded fool who got too close to true power.
and it seems only the sorcerer and paladin truly pitied him and his fate, and remembered his sacrifice.
Rest in peace, tortured soul.
That couldn't have been Horizon. Poor wretch.
And for all his sacrifice, the once proud sorcerer was now, like his companions, an embodiment of everything he and his order of Vigerai mages strived to stand against, as if a final gift from the Lord of Terror himself. Regardless of the sorcerer's virtuous intent and struggles, he was reduced to, at least in the public's eye, another mad sorcerer, corrupted by